Just a long lost look in your eyes brings out a love that I can't disguise. So take me down to the places I've never seen. Or don't you try to kill me with kind. It's just your love that's driving me wild. Oh, from the dawn we rise, with the heart we cry, to the light we go, to the light we go. From the darkest night, from the fire inside, to the light we go, to the light we go, to the light we go.
Welcome back, guys. I know it was a little bit of a break, but we're here with our second series of the night, KSV versus MVP. Gonna go head-to-head. I'm Valdez. With me is Papa Smithy, as always. How are you feeling about this matchup?
You know, we're gonna have to pull one out. Goodbye, 8.3. Hello, 8.4. After this particular series, the Trackers knives will be gone. The knives will be out if KSV can't pick up the victory here. Feels like 20 years since they were actually able to look like a top team. They were so dominant in the first 2 weeks of the season. The next month, not great.
Yeah, they've been struggling, to say the least, especially against strong teams. They take out Kong Du Monster, but besides that, Rocks, SKT, KT, and Afrika all taking out KSV, and it's not good looks when you're trying to beat or compete with all of those teams to make it into the playoffs. So we'll see how it goes tonight. Let's introduce our teams first off.
이기는 방법을 알고 있는 팀, 그리고 우승하는 방법도 알고 있는 팀입니다. 2017 월드 챔피언십 챔피언 KSV.
You guys heard it first, the World Championship champion. It is KSV in the booth. Unfortunately, not looking like the champions recently. We'll see if they can pull it back.
Yeah, I imagine if you're on the team, you don't really want to be reminded of that because you never want to rest on your laurels. For many teams, winning the World Championship is their ultimate goal. It should be, right? It is the biggest tournament. But you know that it's never going to be complete for KSV, formerly Samsung Galaxy, until they have that LCK championship as well. The weird scenario where they're the only team in history to win the World Championship without ever winning their domestic title under the 2015 onwards grouping of then Samsung Galaxy, now KSV. They will return to Ambition in the jungle. Haru's last few adventures haven't been too fruitful. We'll see how Ambition will adapt in next week's games to this post-Tracker's Knife meta, because he likes to farm. And we don't really know, or it's not clear whether that will hurt or help him as the vision starts to go away.
Yeah, curious to see how 8.4 is going to go in Korea, but again, we need to wait all of about 2 days to get there. It will be here on Tuesday, but let's go ahead and introduce their opponents.
쉽게 씻어내리라 생각됩니다. 승강전을 뚫고 올라온 팀들 중 LCK에 가장 안정적으로 자리 잡은 팀
MVP, the big challengers coming on in here. Definitely the underdogs, but definitely questions to be raised. Can they actually put up a fight against KSV? They've been looking a bit better, bit by bit, but they have to show up tonight.
but not no hopers. You know, they are 9th in the standings for now in relegation, of course. It's all about getting away from the risk of the promotion tournament. 4 and 8 would group them with Jin Air and BBQ if they were able to beat KSV. And a month ago, you wouldn't even think of that. It was MVP with no game victories until they beat SK Telecom T1 in a series. But suddenly, with KSV showing so little, your mind does start to wander. You keep waiting for KSV to show the other foot, to get on the front foot, and win a series in dominant fashion and say, guys, it's still us. We're still the world champions. The period of struggle is over. But until we really see that, the period of struggle seems to be indeterminably long for KSV.
It's very true. I mean, they go up against MVP tonight. As I mentioned before, they took out Kongdu. This is another weak team that they're going up against. It's something they can build some confidence on if they take the victory, but MVP struggling to not go into relegations. You talk a lot about how Kongdu Monsters, this team that's not good enough for LCK, too good for Challenger. They bounce in and out, but MVP definitely seem like they deserve an deserve to be an LCK, I should say, but struggling every time they're here.
We've never actually seen them hit the promotion tournament as well. We don't want to talk about these teams. Let's talk about the future, baby. 8.4
totally
is coming.
Skip this match. Let's go with 8.4.
The hand of Baron. Baron's overpowered, guys. That's all you need to know. It gets stronger up to 40 minutes. So these 40-minute Barons, the third Baron, the second Baron, will be more powerful as we've decided to just ignore this series. Haha, we say to the world champions and MVP. Minion buffs basically do a lot more damage to turrets, and also the Banner of Command being fixed after many years of being bugged in terms of damage will be very interesting to track. So Baron buff is stronger. Elder just wins the game. It should honestly just say victory when you pick up the second Elder Dragon. Game's over, we know that.
Yeah, especially because that team that's ahead is generally going to win the game regardless. But once you pick up that ridiculous buff, it's like, okay, well, see you later, GG. You were talking about Elder Dragon. It's got a lower respawn time. The buff lasts longer for subsequent buffs.
And then the second version of it, the subsequent version, just murders you, basically, is all you need to know. We didn't want to give you guys all the details.
Yeah,
it's
no
disgusting.
Numbers. You just die.
The stream may cut off. It has to be censored. It's just too racy when you pick that buff up. Speaking of censorship, goodbye, perfect timing. FLICKR just was going to have a bit of fun picking up a little stopwatch juke. Now with it commencing at 10 minutes, very unlikely to see it again.
Yeah, I mean, you see it every once in a while in solo queue over here in Korea, but not too much. We'll see how it comes into LCK when 8.4 hits. World champions in a crisis. 8th place for a lot of these numbers, 6 in damage per minute. They just don't look like that strong, confident KSV or former Samsung that we once knew and loved.
They feel like the 6th or 7th best team in the LCK right now, and that's kind of unconscionable. What does it mean if the world champions change no one on the roster, change the name on the door, and don't even make playoffs? This team has so often been 3rd or 2nd in the standings, 4th also, but 5th is, you know, kind of the lowest that you'd ever think they would fall. For them to not actually make it is just insanity. Insanity to even consider, and Crown is one of the reasons they've been struggling, because he just hasn't been able to find a run of form.
The weight is too heavy here for Crown, is basically what SpoTV is saying. Definitely, you can see the comparison in the numbers. The last 5 games he's been playing have been pretty dismal in terms of stats. And, well, you got to place the blame where it is due, and certainly Crown has not been looking like a world champion in recent times. So tonight, as I said before, definitely a nice platform to take a win, gain some confidence, and try to move up and try to make it into playoffs. Because as you mentioned, looking like 6th or 7th, you're not good enough for playoffs if you're there.
And the worry for Crown is the last 20 games, not the best scores. The last 5 games, worse.
Yeah.
So it's a big problem there. Looking at Max, he likes the DPM. He loves the Zillion, the Bard, the Brand. The wards, though, not so much.
Yeah, those are pretty bad numbers, even below some subs in the league at control wards per minute at 11. That's specifically for supports, too. I'd wonder about those numbers overall, including junglers specifically.
He'd be pretty bad on that particular metric. And now we have Pilot in the game, and Pilot's on a 4-game winning streak. He actually skipped the series at MVP, lost to Kingzone. They spared him that one, but he beat BBQ twice in a row. So the question is, What does it mean for Pilot, who we weren't necessarily feeling great about when he came back into the LCK and he had a rough start, but he's had some great performances recently. A couple of champions he needs to be respected on. Ezreal and the Kalista in particular, whereas Ruler has so much hype after being the MVP of the World Final in 2017 and having great solo queue performance, but this is another one of his team's lean patches, is that even around bot lane, even Ruler and CoreJJ haven't been bossing people as you would expect.
Yeah, I remember when we were preparing for this and we were watching them in solo queue, Ruler along with CoreJJ, they just looked like this incredible duo, especially Ruler. And then they come out and they 2-0 Kingzone and we're like, wow, world champions are here to stay. They're looking so, so good. And then they totally fell off, so we'll see. KSV today, they will get the victory from some of our fans here.
It does seem very possible, but likely is not a word I can use yet. I need to be convinced by KSV. I need to see something. It's been so long since we've really seen them step up against great opposition. They've won some games, 2-0, 2-1, but even there, you never take away, okay, KSV is back.
Yeah, definitely a moment to prove themselves tonight. We'll see if they can do it. As I said before the break, I jokingly was predicting MVP to win this one tonight. It's hard to say that they'll win, even through KSV's struggles, because they've only beaten 2 teams, and it's BBQ and SKT. Kind of funny to put those 2 names together, but they beat BBQ twice, they beat SKT once. It's definitely not a good track record for MVP.
And they don't get to face BBQ again, so that's a rough schedule for the side of MVP. Yeah. That is the one where they picked up the win, so I get that it's unlikely. I get that it probably won't happen, but if we just see a victory for KSV where they don't convince, it doesn't mean playoffs. It doesn't mean much for KSV. We want to see a KSV domination, otherwise the skepticism will continue to grow.
Yeah, so looks like perhaps we're not totally set up here. As we take a look at our 280 carries, just getting ready to go. Pilot looking a little bit nervous here in the booth.
Seeing him clapping. Oh, I heard some good news, Valdez.
Yeah, looks like we're ready to go, guys. Picks and bans for game number 1 right now.
And well, ADC Xayah gets the very early respect ban from KSV. KSV need to find something in their solo lanes. Ruler and CoreJJ may not have been fantastic, but largely they are someone to rely on, and the fact that they've duoed their way to top 10 challenger lets you know that at least mechanically they're in a good spot. We've mentioned it a couple times before, but there's always been eras for KSV of domination from one of their solo laners. It feels right now we're living in an era of no domination from their solo laners. CuVee and Crown have not been able to get champion pools or carry performances going in spring of 2018. Got to start impressing sometime. 7 best-of-3s remain for these 2 teams, but 6 after today.
Gonna go ahead and ban out 2 of Ruler's champions
hey,
there.
Look,
and okay.
He's doing it. Finally seeing Crown jump on Galio for the first time of the season. A couple of weeks ago when I'd seen the lean times for Crown and the fact that they've looked past it many times in pick ban, I wondered why not go for a mid lane Galio and then have Ruler and CoreJJ go for lane dominance and actually turn that into victories. Play around Ruler and CoreJJ. If both your solo laners are struggling, go on champions with the utility to empower. And this can be an empowerment game, because finally we see Crown jump on the Galio.
Finally he's made it. He's found that button.
It's Xayah Rakan time for sure.
Yeah, we do see a couple of carries picked up already for MVP, but Xayah picked up and Rakan available means that this is a no-brainer for KSV.
I'm so excited. Already I'm excited. Took 3 picks for KSV, but I needed to see KSV pick a utility mid laner and a dominant bot lane, and they've done that in this game. This, to me, is the only side we haven't seen from KSV. Most of KSV's victories in the early round robin was just Zoe being broken, and they got a 5-0 lead on the Zoe before they started to lose the Zoe games. Here we get to see Crown on the Galio, and Xayah Rakan as well, as people are loving this Leona into Xayah and Rakan, but it's going to be grouped with the Caitlyn on this particular occasion.
Yeah, looks like Leona's here to stay as long as Xayah Rakan is still in the meta. So, going into our second line of bans here, we are going to see Camille taken away here from CuVee and Ambition.
Would have represented both a champion for CuVee and Ambition. Probably CuVee, given that Ambition wants to power farm and Camille not so good in that particular case. Does guarantee the Hextech Ultimatum would have made the most easy to execute comp, and it's another thing that would be great for KSV. It's so easy to play the Camille Galio comps and just go for the wombo. The Poppy being banned drew a lot of snickers from you, and that makes sense.
It's just so funny to see how many target bans ADD gets when, I don't know, in this top lane meta, is it really a big thing? I know it's also a ban against Max, but it's just like...
Do you just ban Cho'Gath as well and say, what you got?
Yeah.
If you look at this season, and ADD has found victories on GP, Cho, and Maokai, and one of those will be left open unless somehow it's taken away. That will continue to be very funny. But the Poppy, like you say, is comfort. Do they really ban another top laner?
You know, when you're going up against MVP, Ian hasn't shown too much. Pilot struggling a bit, but they are going to take the Zac away instead of only focusing on ADD in this game.
Beyonda's had 2 performances on the Zac recently. The first one where his ults all missed. The second one where his ults look a lot more on point. So that part makes sense. You will see that the Skarner makes it down very far. I think we're seeing an Olaf game here from Ambition. Most recent game in solo queue and an old pick for him. So I think the Olaf would fit this draft perfect. I'd love to see Olaf from the side of KSV, but it's only the single game for Ambition. They're going to think about the Sejuani. That will continue to play, and they'll just lock it in. Ambition seems to not be confident enough to jump on the Olaf for this game.
Unfortunate. Wanted to cast a game of Olaf. I'm going to have to wait a little bit, as even the Ornn does get locked in. So, big beefy front line for the side of KSV.
Whoa, okay.
And what the hell?
We got a Swain. Swain top lane from ADD's found something he likes.
ADD.
All right, first Swain in Korea. Patch 8.3, even before there's extra buffs on this champion. That's fun to see. The Force Lightning going to be coming in, some Star Wars going on. I hope you're ready for this. Not a lot of Swain in solo queue, so we're getting some Swain on the Rift.
Yeah, this is going to be fun, and leave it up to ADD. Even when they really want to avoid relegation, they want to get through, he still goes ahead and picks a totally new pick. Haven't seen it yet, the newly reworked Swain. And it's going to be up against Ornn, which is kind of interesting. It's into that tank matchup. So I want to see how it does overall in this game, because a lot of people have said that it's not good. Just leave it, wait until it gets buffed. But ADD says, no, I'm ready to go right now.
It's a lot with a lot of CC coming through from the Leona as well. So a lot of synergy with the passive there for the Swain. We're definitely going to have to keep our wits around him. I've seen very little Swain. Only have a basic understanding of his abilities. You can remember, though, the Swain has always been dominant into melee matchups in the top side. So it seems like, at worst, a farm lane for the Swain in top.
I'm looking forward to it. Definitely adds a bit of flavor to this matchup where it's, you know, world champion versus 9th place. But now it's like, okay, we get to see Swain in the matchup up against the Ornn. As ADD2 known for his weird picks, he and Max alone trying to change the meta here in Korea.
ADD, he was on the forefront for the Scion. I'm not a big fan of the Swain at this power level right now, but it's something different. It's in a nice spot, but guys, it sounds like we're gonna have a little pause before we actually get to the game. Get ourselves ready for some Swain action.
Yeah, CoreJJ looking not happy with the pause, but we'll get into it eventually. I'm sure you guys out there are pretty excited about the pick. Seems like SpoTV is as well. The big zoom in on ADD. He's like, oh, I didn't mean to pick Swain. Nah, looks like just a headset issue for our top laner of MVP.
He needs his headset going. The Swain is definitely gankable, but very dominant into melee matchups. I would argue a little bit less than before because he doesn't have the targeted abilities that made him so reliable in previous seasons, but still can be very oppressive in a team fight. Has synergy with the Leona as well, so a lot to like about the Swain. I think when the buffs come through in the future and the items load up for him, he will certainly be a fringe meta pick, but feels like we're cheating a little bit by having him an 8.3.
So guys, the game is ready, we have heard. We're nearing the moments where we can actually jump into this.
Give me the Swain, I need it.
Looks like it's time, guys. The countdown has begun. Let's jump into game number 1. The MVP fans never disappoint, as they are here en masse, alongside the KSV fans. Definitely putting up a fight in the fan cheer.
And Swain on the riff, very, very interesting. Gonna have a lot of pushing options. Actually went for E level 1, you will notice, which is the ability to do a lot of control in these fights. Very interesting. Can be very dominant in lane, and that's what we're going to be watching to see if it's worth picking, because we've seen Alawi into the Ornn many times, try to bust lane. First influence is that we're not going to see as much lane dominance on the Swain. It's going to be the Glacial Augment that's become pretty common for even more control. So many different types of CC on the kit for the Swain.
Oh, and he's looking for a level 1 gank onto the Galio. He's going to land that E and pull him in. Let's see if they can get the flash out here. Doesn't look like it, but a nice little trade, I suppose.
Can definitely chip out the Galio. I guess Crown will want to stay in lane, go through the potions, and then just teleport back in with a Doran's Ring or something like that. Very nice little gank. Doesn't have the Q to control the wave at level 1, but can go top lane and just farm. Already the cheese begins for ADD.
You know, when you're in 9th place and you're going up against the world champion, I don't blame him. Try something new. Be interesting to see the solo queue list here for ADD if he's been practicing this. I mean, once a new champion comes in, all the pro gamers, of course, try it out. They say, oh, is it good? Is it bad? Can we use this? So no doubt ADD has his own amount of practice on this champion.
If we plug and play it as lane dominant, then we'll see how that actually plays out. I imagine we're going to see plenty of jungle attention from the Sejuani as the game goes on. Return to the Skarner that has been very lane this week, Valdez. We have not seen a lot of value from Skarner on this week's games. Skarner has heavily struggled. But when you think about where the game is going, a lot of scaling in the mid lane from Ian, a lot of play around initiation from KSV. I remember the last time that KSV played MVP was Tristana Tarek in the bot side, and super aggression from the duo won them the game. It felt like Ruler and CoreJJ, and everyone else was a passenger on the bot lane bus. Might actually be like that again in this game, because they're ready to pile on whenever Ruler hits his item timings. 3 items, Xayah should just take over the game.
Ruler certainly looking to return to that form where he can take over games like that. Deonter actually putting a nice deep ward in there. Not going to take the Spire and let them know where he is. Although he stops his back because Crown comes over and places a ward. Now they're thinking about a gank here. Just bullying Crown. The flash comes in for the stun, forcing the flash out of Crown himself. Okay, getting aggressive here, MVP.
I felt the only reason you go flash for flash is if you want to return gank at level 6, because it was never going to be the damage to take down a Galio. So very weird from the Skarner, who usually prizes his own flash over that of an enemy's at level 6. A lot of time put into shutting down the Galio, but he's so safe to farm that I'm not so sure I'm a big fan of the flash there. Seemed optimistic. Mission himself going bot side, but just coverage, predictably, for Ambition.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Whether or not it was the right play or not, it's fun to watch when teams like MVP are saying, hey, let's throw caution to the wind and just get in their face, try to ruffle their feathers a little bit. See if we can make them a little bit nervous in the game.
I think to justify Swain on patch number 8.3, I want to see a CS lead. Seems unlikely, given that Ornn is just so damn safe on the top side. He's actually losing trades really badly here.
You want a CS lead, but actually let's have him be something in the lane first.
The reason why I'm such a skeptic of Swain with his current kit, unless the numbers are really buffed up, is that I feel like he doesn't do what he was originally picked for. And to be fair, he was never picked, but at least in solo queue, what he was picked for was to dominate melee champions. He was very strong against melee champions on the top side. And it feels like he does that worse than his previous kit. He has a lot of interesting gimmicks, his ability to have obscenely long range on his W to check brush and also get a situational slow. He has a lot of CC on his kit and goes the Glacial Augment. You guys are wondering at home, we mentioned Glacial Augment. Otherwise, Biscuiteer for laning and the Gathering Storm. Just in case, it is KSV, so I guess Gathering Storm has pretty high power levels. KSV are, next to Jinair, definitely one of our long game teams.
Yeah. I want to see the build too, because generally we've been seeing, you know, Sion, Cho'Gath, Ornn in the top lane, all these tanks. Does he go just straight into AP, or does he try to add in some tank items at all?
The catalyst is certainly going to be there, but I think Rod of Ages is what I see the most in solo queue. Again, there's very little competitive play to draw on with this champion. If you think about the team that he's on, it's a pretty high damage team with when the game gets longer, but in the early game, not going to quite be there for the Caitlyn and the Corki. So I think Rod of Ages into situational is probably what I'm expecting from the Swain.
Yeah, going to be curious to see what path he goes down. It's always nice to see, you know, first-time champions coming in, because we always have a lot to talk about in terms of their build, in terms of the player, what does it mean? And speaking of players and what it means, Beyond is level 6. That means that perhaps he wants to revisit the lane or go for some kind of gank, as you were talking about.
Problem there is that he's level 6. He does have a level lead on Ambition, but he's level 6 with no flash, so he could just die.
Well, he's certainly fighting here. As okay, Ambition is going to get a little bit too far forward. Does have the Galio nearby, but he's getting incredibly low. But here comes CoreJJ, the first roam coming in. Is it going to be the first blood? Not quite. Finally, the first blood goes over to Corki, actually. Now they're getting up to Crown. That's going to be 2 for MVP. Unbelievable, they turned that around.
Yeah, the time for the roam was the right timing, Valdez. It's when the flash was still on cooldown from Crown. The ultimate had to be used, and it was always going to be in pretty suboptimal positioning. Crown's flash being down got them the bonus kill, so MVP with a bit of innovation on the top side to inspire the fans, and then some play. Level 6 to level 5 is such a big spike. When CoreJJ made the first roam, you were baited into thinking this would be first blood and another MVP blooper. It ends up being an MVP PogChamp moment as Beyond lives and Crown steps on a trap that he did not see, and a second trap as well. That was definitely some Sideshow Bob Simpson stuff there as he found rake after rake, and that led to the death of Crown.
Oh boy, that's not good feels for KSV so far in this game. Oh boy, that's going to be a 1-0-1 Corki and a 1-0-1 Caitlyn. So good start here for MVP, already off to a nice little gold lead, as that spike of the Trinity Force comes just a bit faster for MVP's Ian on the Corki.
The thing that kind of gives me the most pause, Valdez, is that you think about what the game is likely to become in patch 8.4. You think shorter games, you think more decisive play required. Surely this was the best meta for KSV, the delay games. They are the team known for their late game power. They're known for their late game smart decisions. We haven't seen them in at least 3 weeks, maybe 4. And the meta's going to get faster. I hope that they've secretly been just doing the mad scientist thing and getting prepared for the new meta, because they've left us a lot to be decided on this meta. And even MVP looking to profit during the downfall of KSV.
Oh boy, they might be in a bit of trouble. They could probably go for CoreJJ here, but they don't want to dive. Even with Galio, Crown was actually over at the blue, and the package was on Ian, but they still decide, no, let's take it a bit slower.
Even Predator Skarner against Xayah Rakan with everything up is probably not going to happen. So smart to see a bit of control there. We saw the Ravenous Flock be used already in the top side, just for a bit of harassment there for Swain, who, to his credit, is around the 89 CS mark. Demonic Ascension, I should call it. Ravenous Flock's the old name.
It's fun. We're learning here as we cast. Certainly, Swain, not something we expected we'd see, but you never know. So far, it's been having a little bit of trouble, as we can see. At least it's catching up in terms of the CS. It's not behind.
And there's a situational sustain on the passive that at least makes the trades not as one-sided the way of Ornn, but he is, like you say, losing over time. Is a return to the Unsealed Spellbook. We saw the Grasp of the Undying against Gnar that seemed optimistic and went fine until it got turned around on Sejuani in the first series. CuVee going the old school build against these ranged top laners with the Unsealed Spellbook. And you wonder, how many games of experience does CuVee have against Swain? He's very little playtime in Korean solo queue. I imagine it's not going to see much playtime in scrims either. The only person I've seen say a positive thing about Swain was Smeb, who just had some murmurs of it being good, but Smeb's a troll, so hard to say how much that actually means. Talk is cheap until you pick it in competitive, Smeb.
It's true. I mean, he can play all the games of Maokai he wants, but until he
hasn't done that lately.
I know. Haven't seen too much Maokai overall. Just one of those picks that you see when there's no other tank available.
Game plan for KSV is still pretty easy to execute. And with as many different problems as they've had, that's why another reason why I'm excited, because theoretically you pile in. Now, you don't have Camille to guarantee it, but any flashes go down, and you are certainly piling in with the massive tank line and Xayah Rakan taking over the game. A lot about item timings for both sides, but 2 items on Xayah and the Zeke's convergence onto CoreJJ is probably when this game turns on for KSV, unless we can see an actual positive use of the ultimate from Galio, because the first one wasn't fantastic, and it might be needed here, as beyond promise of flash.
There have been so many random funny things that have happened in this game, and CoreJJ chasing after him with the quickness. Another one of those, kind of an unfortunate series of events for CoreJJ, who burns his flash and his ultimate for no gain down there in the jungle.
Yeah, Sweet, just want to take a pause. They've definitely had a low-light moment for this game, but Rod of Ages is done on the Galio. 1 item power spike done on the Ornn as well. They don't have a lot of control bot side, so actually making a proactive play to profit off CuVee's lane control over the Swain. I did see that missed cannon. Sorry about that, CuVee. They can't actually fight here. Usually against Galio comps, it's the freest Drake control of all time because Galio's just there to ult in, but they have no control bot side after Ambition died alongside Crown in their own red side jungle. So while it's not truly vertical jungling, you can feel with the ward line that it was a very safe Mountain Drake take for MVP. And they want to adjust their vision soon, KSV, because the second spawn is an Infernal.
If MVP can get that and get towards this later game, it's going to be pretty intense. But hold that thought, as Ruler might be in some trouble here, forced to burn that ultimate. Maybe want to turn this around, but not quite. Just going to play it safe afterwards. Ruler eating a bunch of damage, and now Beyond is nearby. Speaking of which, turning into a slow 3-on-3 down on the bottom side. MVP still haven't seen our Sejuani coming in.
Beyond also unknown.
Let's see who they go for. Probably going to be Ruler. They get him just on the edge there. The TP coming in. Is there enough damage to push through, though? Galio rotates first, and Max will go down. Beyond being taunted up here. Now we got a nice little call to Forge God coming in. ADD trying to do something on the Swain. You can see that damage is coming out, and he doesn't lose it. Seeing the power of Swain. Also CuVee getting a little bit too far forward as the rest of his team was running away from the Swain. But turning it around, he flashes in with the taunts now, and they're going to get 2 members. Beyond goes down as well. ADD, he wants to get that damage, but both of them are so low on mana, they can't quite take anyone else out.
MVP definitely seems surprised by the re-engage. Ian was so aggressive, flashing forward for an attempt to kill. The ultimate there did actually reach his Demon Flare on the second half, but only used it for wave clear. Didn't think he would be able to gap close. Watch the replay here of the team fight. Beyond is the one who has the most time to judge. They try to get onto Ruler to delete him, but the Sejuani ultimate was a hero one from Ambition. Just ulting the Skarner. Skarner just thinking, wasn't able to use his Impale at the start. It looks like CuVee is going to get them like bowling pins, but we're able to flash defensively. ADD starts off in the Demonic Ascension and then actually gets to Demon Flare, but just uses it to push back the wave. They think the fight is over, but Ian flashes forward, moves forward, is taken out. Nice re-engage from Crown.
Really smart game sense there. A weaker team, a weaker mid laner probably would have just flashed away or just tried to run away, but noticing that little moment where they can make a play like that is very nice. So KSV evening things up a little bit. They're still down, but certainly make that fight a bit better than it could have been.
And Hextech GOP, even the old Hextech GOP will be opted in here by ADD, so a bit more catch on the Swain. How many situational slows and roots does he have when the GOP is added? Comically amount. He has Glacial Augment to slow on auto, and basically all his abilities do some form of CC. Outside the queue is the last pick was Ian in the mid lane in their first season, summer 2016.
It's only fitting, right? It's got to be someone else on MVP who thinks Swain is good, and of course that was before the rework.
5 points in the Force Lightning ability, the Q for the wave clear. It's not actually called Force Lightning, but we all know that people watch Star Wars and then came up with the Death's Hand.
I mean, you can see the power of Swain, or at least the positive point of Swain. Not even sure if I should call it power just yet, is if you can't focus him down, he doesn't really die. But I'll hold that thought as they want to go in here. Ruler doesn't have his flash. They're going to get him pretty low. Trying to get on top of it, but not quite enough as CoreJJ is just going to wrap everybody up and say, nope, thank you very much.
How often do we get excited about disengage Rakan? That was about as perfect as can be. To buy to buy Ruler plenty of time to disengage. Ambition's moving forwards. Now we're seeing some engage.
Yeah, beyond just being jumped on.
Ian was able to spend a lot of time on the Corki to stop the crown from rotating. Still no ultimate here.
They're going to try to use the Impale just to survive, but that's definitely not going to work, as now Max faded in a little bit. We'll see if they can take him out. Not quite enough damage on the side of KSV, but just one kill going over to them.
Ian was able to stop Crown from ulting, so we thought, okay, that's just going to lead to a full-on disengage. Just stayed on to Beyond, took him down. Nothing that Max could do to help him out. So that's actually just a free kill over the way of KSV. Still looking for a gold lead this game. They are about 1,000 gold behind their enemies. If you look at the map, you look at the heat map, which we don't talk about that often, do notice that when it comes to the blue dots advanced of the river, Ambition just doesn't play that style.
Yep, not really. You can see some of those blue dots just from that most recent gank.
Do you think when Ambition started playing, back in the old days of 2011, he was one of those stay in your lane guys?
Yeah.
I definitely think he was. He was just always stay in your lane, don't roam. This is my place. It's my side of the jungle.
Yeah.
Game has evolved from there, and Ambition always tries to bring back the passive farming style. One day the Greys will get enough buffs for him to break that out. That is the champion I think of when I think of Ambition's jungle.
Beginning of 2017 in spring, we saw a ton of Graves back when it was meta. You could just power farm up and carry from the jungle. Saw Ambition playing a bunch of that, but not anymore. There are better picks now, such as the Skarner. I'd much rather watch a Skarner instead of a Graves. I don't know about you, Papa.
I'm with you. I can definitely take that side, but Graves and team fights can be fun. Watching here is KSV going back to their old style, setting up for turrets, and Max definitely didn't see this coming.
Max trying to ult onto Pilot, but it doesn't really work that way as he gets out of there anyway.
All right, trying to play the turret game. This has always been one of the power points of KSV. They have the more reliable teleport as well, if they want to invest the time of the Ornn. But they back away, trying to catch Ian in transition.
Oh boy, in a bit of trouble. He's gonna get out of there though.
QSS already picked up by Ian. His Carl clashed in, so able to pick up the defensive purchase to make a play like that happen. We said that KSV wanted to move their vision line for the second Drake spawn when we got the information of being Infernal, and largely they've been able to do that. They definitely have the piece of the puzzle that should lead to Drake being pretty hard to contest for MVP. But AD's recalling, always the chance he shops and tries to get in.
Oh, they're going to engage down here on the bottom side. Max getting a little bit too far forward, trying to just poke, but he is going to get out of there, actually, leashing onto Ambition. But now Skarner in the front line is going to be knocked up. Ruler getting low, though. The Swain doing that damage, flashing forward. He's going to get a kill in the back one. Now Pilot is all alone doing that free damage. A double kill for Ian. And now CuVee getting too deep in here is going to go down. MVP turning this around, and ADD at full health. This Swain, it's working out.
Leona with the 200 IQ Zenith Blade to get out of it, and they could refocus around ADD and the amount of zone control as Swain was able to have. No kills for the Swain, but a lot of teamfight impact, and MVP should turn this into a mid lane turret, or at least a lot of control on the map.
I can't believe what we're seeing. Let's take another look at this. You'll see the Zenith Blade. It was incredible.
Max is the most DED dead ever in the front line. It looks like he's going to be completely done. He eats everything, but the Zenith Blade onto the Sejuani, who was trying to delay Skarner. There's a Skarner's in the front line. Surely this is a one team fight. You're already kind of blinking and thinking it's over. But nobody dies. Even the Skarner lives. And ADD flashing forward may not get a kill. But Ambition and the rest of KSV can't walk past him with all of his zone control and his full health bar. And MVP exit it, not with the Infernal, but with the kills.
You know, we're beginning to see some of the power here of the Swain. Obviously, the team fights haven't been perfect for KSV, but if the Swain comes in a little bit later and a bunch of people are already low, he just flashes into the backline and everybody's like, well, we can't ignore this. We can't really move forward through this. We're going to take way too much damage and Swain is not going to die. The fight is long enough forward so they can't focus him down. So it's a really awkward spot. Now we're going to see this Drake go down. It's going to go over to MVP. That's 2 to the side of MVP now.
The Infernal, so powerful, so useful. The Ocean will be the next spawn, so we'll definitely see more topside vision around 26 minutes into the game, and Baron will be the bigger priority, but story for MVP was scaling. KSV had easy to execute and a lot of early to mid-game power, and they can still win a team fight with a fed Xayah. The Xayah slowly getting to the point of power. The Xayah not relevant in the game just yet. And MVP have multiple threats who are starting to pile on the damage. Start to wonder with KSV, can they actually pull the trigger? Because once 3 to 4 items are hit on the Corki and the Caitlyn, it's not a Kalista. We've seen a lot of Galio comps against Kalista 2-threat Corki comps, and the Kalista does nothing. Caitlyn will eventually be able to have a lot more safety, do a lot more reliable damage to her front line, and while she's not a true tank buster, she's a hell of a lot better than a Kalista in the inevitable 3 to 4 item fights.
Well, we can see the situation now of ADD. He was struggling a little bit early on, but eventually now he's actually 35 CS ahead of CuVee in the top lane. Having a fun time, seems to always rotate first. You can see the total damage dealt. It's all about the Swain here. I mean, picking up GLP2 is like a utility item. It's not really a damage one even.
And let's temper it a little bit. He is doing a lot of damage to Ornn in the lane. The trades weren't going great early, but against a melee laner, you're always going to be able to, as a ranged champion, buff up your numbers.
Sure.
And he's about controlling team fights. It's probably going to be Xayah's here as his second item. Feels like not much has changed for the Swain build. Still about controlling space. His ultimate being able to interact with the Xayah is one of his biggest qualities. So zone control, and now with items complete, a lot of ability to push and just at least make CuVee accountable if he ever does choose to teleport. That ability will be up very soon because of the extra cooldown reduction of the unsealed spellbook.
Well, we can see the situation once CuVee, or rather Ornn, gets a bunch of tank items. It's very hard for the Swain to just sit there as you eventually run out of mana. Looking for a dive in the bottom side now is some potential here as they have the Galio, always an option. Should rotate before the Corki, but now Ambition in a bit of a weird spot is going to be stunned up here. They're not going to use the Impale. Quickness coming through. Going to land on the pilot here, but they don't seem to have enough damage to get on top of him. Double knock
Ian's
up.
the back line.
Yeah, Ian in the back line as well as Leona. And here comes the Swain from the top side. Look out for this. Sun's coming in from Max, but they don't quite have enough. The Blade Caller is going to stun up everybody. As KSV, they just want out. But Beyond was looking for a pick, not going to happen. KSV do successfully disengage.
They actually managed to pull CuVee in, but it's not going to be a kill. Still had the Searing Charge to get out. They don't have that extra chase. The W so unreliable from the Swain. They have to give up. He's going to push through mid. I liked his positioning in the fight because everything was down, and he said, there's no threat on me to be in the side. Usually a tank still has CC. Try to take down a Corki, not to be there. Again, the items don't have the oomph yet. We don't have Infinity Edge and Rapid Fire Cannon yet for the Corki. Caitlyn's still putting items together, but how MVP's playing out the fights against a pretty linear comp from KSV should be celebrated, and they do have a 2,000 gold lead and the Infernal at 23 minutes.
Righteous Glory finished up here for Beyond, so we've seen him getting very close to getting a good impale onto someone on KSV, but now this is going to open up new options, new opportunities for our jungler.
Basically, the ult change, the big takeaway is it went from the zone control, kind of incremental low damage, but very unkillable Swain into now if you're in the right position in the fight, you can actually get a decent amount of burst on the back end. You're not going to be deleting people, but it does justify the smaller window in terms of usability in a team fight. You get in there, you control space for a while, and then you have an impactful moment compared to before, where you just kind of roamed around as a crow for the entire time, but largely weren't able to actually close out a fight. It was very extended fighting for ADD. The build, as you see, it may not be a Rod of Ages, but very, very similar for the first two items. Imagine the new Haunting guys into Liandry's might be for him in the future patch. There are a lot of buffs for him at 8.4, so honestly, I was definitely not prepared to expect a Swain pick this week. Swain next week, an outside chance this week. Seems like just trying to play with the unknown against KSV and try to hit them while they're down. They seem to have cemented on a comp they like KSV and MVP, trying to throw into disarray.
Yeah, and surely after some of the success we've seen in this game, will be in the back of everybody's mind for the future here for 8.4. Thinking about going on to Ambition, not going to work. He's quite tanky at this point.
No QSSs yet on the side of KSV. So the moment that we hit 3 items on the Corki, even the Galio becomes an outside chance at being someone you pull in and try to delete. Speaking of deletion, what a nice damage.
The Swain really cannot deal with the tanky Ornn in lane.
You say tanky, he's pretty obnoxious already with the Warmogs.
Yeah.
He just disengages the Swain damage and comes back in at full health, such as Warmogs.
So that's a real question. You know, the Swain seems pretty good in team fights, but not really holding his own, and it allows CuVee to push it in and go for the first rotation towards mid. We'll see how this affects later fights.
You do see this game and wonder if after the buffs on 8.4, how does he deal with Xayah? Because old Swain against Sion will probably be fine. New Swain, we'll wait and see.
Okay, we are going to have a fight here. Beyond is going to get onto the Xayah here. Isn't going to be enough damage. Featherstorm coming in, but actually it's going to be Skarner that goes down first, but they get Ruler in the backside. Tons of DPS taken away. Now very low Sejuani is finally going to be taken out. Crowd has to flash away. Swain comes in kind of funnily at the end.
He wants to cast his ultimate, but he can't.
Wants to look really cool, but a nice little fight there for MVP. Definitely a win.
A lot of control for the first part. No Demon Flare value, but no problem. Specifically getting the assassination on Ruler. It's a protect the MVP strategy against MVP, and they get the hook again.
Yeah, just running straight at the Swain. Generally not a good idea, as with the help of Ian, can definitely do a bit more damage. So this is looking better. It really raises questions like what's going on the side of KSV. They're not looking too good against this comp.
So we say it's easy to execute from KSV. They roll in. The ultimate from the Sejuani just used to interrupt at the end here. We're watching the replay. Ult used onto the Leona. Galio comes in, but you need to peel for Rule. He gets assassinated by Max and a rocket coming through from Ian in the backline. They seem very unfocused after the initial wombo. And then from there, there's no damage. They don't win a fight if Ruler is the first person to die on the side of KSV.
Yeah, you can see Crown, he's going AP, but at the same time, you definitely need that consistent DPS from your AD carry. And just a nice job done by Max, and not enough peel on the side of KSV, who slowly losing fight after fight are beginning to lose control of this game. Now down 4,000 gold in this one.
Good news for CuVee, though. He's gone for the 8.4 special in the Banner of Command, and Swain is going to have Struggle Streak to try and answer that in the side lane. So that's another place where they'll be able to find a little bit of chip advantage, promoting a minion. MVP do start over the Ocean. They already had the first 2 Drakes of the game, and the Elder Dragon win condition will be a 4th spawn before 35 minutes.
Second Mountain is going to be the 4th Drake of the game. Ocean Drake this late, not the greatest, but it's okay for the Swain, I suppose.
Leona will be holding everything she has to try to find a way to take down the Xayah. 3 items now complete. The Zeke's convergence complete for the damage amp. This is where KSV's comp is strongest. They have a lot of burst damage on the Galio. They have a Xayah who should be, again, should be safe at the back of a fight. It should be plenty of wombo in the front and tanks to be able to peel for her. But already, you wouldn't give a pass mark to how they've played around Ruler in the early game. This is the moment where you have to really inspect closely, because this is theoretically what KSV drafted the comp for. This level of power at 29 minutes.
First rotation coming in from CuVee, gonna get 3 knockups in the back as they try to take out this mid-tier 1. Looks like they will be successful in that play.
Swain top lane without teleport, and the Corki bot lane happy to pick up a turret. So turret for turret, mid lane turret. Definitely the higher priority, but all outer turrets are down now at 29 minutes, around the 30-minute mark. KSV theoretically have a champion select that benefits in these longer lanes because they have so much catch and also the ability to rotate quickly with the Galio. But if you look at the vision line, it's pretty even. Very defensive vision line for both teams. The only advanced ward we have is the River Ward top side for ADD. Placed around the Swain. Baron damage on this team with double Infinity Edge cannot be trifled with. So you wonder how long MVP will take to start the objective.
Look at what they got with the trap set up from Caitlyn, too. They've got a decent amount of pick themselves, and certainly denying all the vision and randomly turning onto Baron here as they just have, look at the traps and the Swain in the front. It's so hard to get through this.
And Max is so tanky, they don't know that this is so low already, it's gone.
See you later, Baron, okay. That's gonna go down, nice little play, and now they're looking to get onto CuVee, who's forced to flash out of that one. Not good looks on the side of KSV. They give up a big objective, and now MVP gonna look to make it work down the mid lane.
And we're hyped about MVP's Baron control. That was excellent from them. There was no indication of Beyond looking on the patrol for the Impale that they had done so much damage to Baron. KSV completely outdone by the smart move from MVP, and suddenly the great escape, the great unlikely result for MVP is seeming likely. It's only game one. It'd only be a game one victory, but yeah. I don't feel like KSV's comp gets stronger and stronger. Now, you find a way to stun up both Ian and Pilot, you can still win, but their summoners are up, the Baron is claimed, the items are rolling in for the hyper-scaling mid laner and bot laner, and it doesn't feel like KSV found a similar bounty to hang their hats on.
Yeah, and you talk about sniping out the two carries, sure, that will be the main goal, but then you have this third kind of unique pick in the Swain. If you think about EV top laners, you would think maybe the Rise or the Vlad that we've been seeing from time to time. Not too much Vlad anymore, but they're more about the burst, the rotation, right? Whereas Swain, he just doesn't really die. He stays in the fight, and he never really goes anywhere. So if you're diving the back line, trying to get Ian and Pilot, even if you're successful, you still have to deal with Swain somehow.
And the way that MVP want these team fights to work out and why they drafted the Swain is, you consider what KSV do. The big ults come in, all three tanks ultimate, they try to get in the back line. If you can flash away and disengage that, Swain stands in the front and controls space with every single item purchase, and basically everything in his kit is CC. Like you say, he doesn't die, he controls space, and then Ian and Pilot do all the damage. So it really is zone control, a space control champion in the Swain in this draft. Now, disengaging this much engage, it's not a trivial thing, but if the first burst rotation, the Galio Hero's entrance, doesn't shut down Pilot or Max, you're right, ADD in the front line might be enough to buy space for Corki and Caitlyn to prosper.
So they're going to send 4 members down here looking for this bottom tier 2. Swain versus Ornn up in the top side. Haven't really got a look at that. You're seeing what Corki can begin to do already here at 32 minutes into the game. Just poking down Ambition. Does have the Warmogs, but has that power.
Double Knight's Vow in the 4, and ADD finally the trades, not as one-sided the way of the Ornn. Where there's a will, where there's a hope. The Void Staff coming in will only help.
Yeah.
But MVP, they walk back in. They have very powerful carries and the damage reduction on both. It does mean they're not running 3 lanes and mid lane is pushing out. So they're going to try and use some ults, take this turret. I don't think they want to dive.
Yeah, you can see they force Crown to go back, just punching his way away.
Solar Flare has a comically low cooldown late in the game, so 1 ult, 1 turret, that's fine for MVP. It's another inner turret down, only 1 left on the Rift.
Yeah, and Pilot on the Caitlyn, certainly another nice pick. You have Corki in the mid lane here, doing some damage in the front. He's going to flash forward, trying to get onto that Swain. They burst him down. That's what they needed to do. They finally are able to do that. There's going to be 2 kills and make it 3. KSV finally making a stand against MVP.
For so long, they have been unable to find the Wombo. It may not be onto the carries, but the entire tank line is down. The Swain could never interact in the fight. Even through Merc Treads, the CC bar meant that he could not use Zone Use. He could not use his ultimate. No space control, and KSV want to break the base from those 3 picks.
Never even got a chance to Zone Use in that one. Wasn't a mistake, as you mentioned, was just CC'd the entire time. That is what they have in their composition. So now, finally, KSV finding a foothold in this game, looking for some more turrets and perhaps a Mountain Drake of their own on the back foot.
Breaking the base, difficult to do when the 280 carries are alive and your initiation ultimates are all on cooldown. So the threat from the tanks is much, much lower. The fallback Mountain is not an Elder. Would probably prefer to be able to pick that one up on the backside even without any buffs, but the Mountain's a Mountain. Also delays the time in the game when the Elder spawns. It's going to be a pretty late spawn in 40 minutes and 35 seconds, so unlikely to play too big a factor. Consider that they're pushing up with the Dregs of Baron, Swain in the front line. It felt pretty low percentage they were going to get any real turret damage. They were definitely not going to break the turret, so the positioning there from MVP, highly questionable. They could have taken the last free objective in the top side and there would not have been that level of contest. Swain in the front line was perma-CC'd and they got no value from him. And then the DPS duo had to just abandon their tanks. There was nothing they could do.
So MVP still ahead in this game, about 6,000 gold, and it is getting later and later. So continuing with the push, looking for this top lane, but I think they have to play a little bit more carefully, especially after seeing the ability of KSV to just collapse and destroy their entire front line.
Ian and Pilot both use their flashes throughout that fight, and that means that their safety from the hero's entrance and the other initiation tools is much lower. Well, let's see if they can actually play their flanks, if they can actually incrementally move forward. Largely their Baron in this game was the thing that has opened up a pretty big lead. Outside of that, they have definitely struggled to interact. And look, they haven't a lot of experience in closing out games. They only have 3 match victories. Their 2 wins over BBQ were both very, very clean, but something weird between BBQ and MVP. Always is that MVP victory. They go back to playing the silence, something they didn't do before. And getting that last outer touch would be the easy objective. The Baron in 1 minute, though, and the setup around it will be the thing to inspect, as right now, Skarner and the side of MVP control the river.
Yeah, we're going to have some nicely timed recalls out of the bottom lane here of MVP. Just going to pick up some control wards, it looks like.
If ADD is not killed instantly, he has so much CC and zone control, and his 4 items on both Ian and Pilot. They both do unbelievable damage. They do super amounts of damage on the side of MVP. But didn't count for much when Swain couldn't control space, and they could definitely lose this game with those 2 members staying at 1 death between the 2. So they've already seen that before. Again, because it's not Callisto, the Callisto comps against this comp has happened many times this week, we do rate the tank-busting ability of Caitlyn and the Corki higher. It's double Infinity Edge compared to the situational items from the Callisto. Baron has spawned. KSV, that's what always happens. You always have this tussle for vision. Right now, KSV control the pit, but the control wards are back for MVP.
You can see ADD getting the advantage in the push bottom side. They might look to collapse here. See what they can do. Package right now on Ian. Definitely somewhat of an engaged tool, although sometimes it will bait you into going too far. That's the Corki for you. We're here at 37 minutes.
He's lucky that the E there, the Battle Dance, actually stopped the last auto from registering. Otherwise, it would have been a 300 health.
Ambition just jumped the wall, but look at this. ADD from behind, a huge flank, and Ornn is late. That's going to be a big wombo combo here. Isn't enough damage. Ruler trying to get away, and in the end, he will. ADD just trying to zone everybody out. Flash forward, there's that Swain damage, but it's not quite enough to kill anybody just yet. They get 1 guy in the front. It's going to be Crown going down, and eventually Ambition. They make their way through that tank line. 2 kills for MVP.
It doesn't even matter that they don't have burst damage on the back end. ADD zoned so many members that you knew that at the same time as him getting the back line, Ian and Pilot were able to DPS down the front line. It still works. It gets them the Baron. Well executed by MVP as Ruler felt super low at the start of the fight. He does not have the ability to escape and was impaled through all of it. Let's watch the replay to fully understand. Ambition jumps over and MVP say, okay then, well, let's go for this. They roll in, watch Ruler. Remember, he's the one that needs to be able to find safety to auto. That's what all the tanks are for. He's out with no health, and ADD zones 4 people as there's nowhere for Crown to get out, and that's all ADD needs to do. There's no threat on Ian, there's no threat onto Pilot, there's no problem for MVP.
Fantastic combination between Beyond and ADD, just never-ending CC. That last never move onto the Xayah just made it so she had to eventually disengage and say, no, I can't fight anymore. And now everything's burned. We got the heal and the flash off of Xayah, and the Baron went over to MVP. Definitely things not looking so good for KSV. They're going to have to pull off another miracle defense here and try to break through that front line somehow.
And as the game goes on, the Ravenous Flock, the passive for the Swain that allows him to actually CC the enemies towards, the pull, if you will, it gets down to a very low cooldown. It starts at 12, ends at 6. By the end, Leona's going to have a second round of spells, and then the tug comes through, and suddenly there are extra people to be taken down the front line. And it doesn't seem like, understandably, KSV have a lot of experience playing against the Swain. He controls so much space. He's done unbelievable amounts of largely meaningless, but still zoning damage.
Yeah, it's like when you got a Teemo on your team and all the mushrooms hit everybody, and he's got like 50k damage, but it's not actually doing anything. But as you mentioned, it's just zoning, and he's somehow doing more damage than the two carries.
If they had a low damage mid laner, it wouldn't work in this comp, but they have so much damage in Corki and Caitlyn that just controlling space is the only brief fade. It's why with the blasting one, he didn't go for a voice stuff. He needs a Banshees. He needs more of this off tankiness. Is once again ambition.
He just does it again. He tries to go in there. He's going to be locked down, but Max is going to be destroyed by Ruler. CoreJJ makes it out of there as well. This time Ruler has so much room, but they're going to take out Crown.
They're going to win.
Pilot in the backline is just mowing them down. A triple kill for this Caitlyn, and they're looking for more. The Quadra, he wants the Penta. Can he get it? He's going to snipe him down, but no! It's not the Penta. Somehow the most anticlimactic non-Penta. It doesn't matter, though, because MVP are going to take the victory.
They can still get the Penta.
Get it. They're trying to lock him down.
Are they going to die for him? They're thinking about it.
They're trying. ADD, he's got to go forward. He's got to be the man. There it is. Oh, stopwatch. Oh, he gets the Penta.
Pentakill!
Pentakill for Pilot. And the Swain composition wins game 1 against the world champions, MVP. What the hell is going on, guys? I don't even know.
What a game win, and the pentakill actually happened. He kept baiting, it wasn't enough, and everyone is smiling. You have to love the inventiveness. It seemed like just a pick to go in with 8.3 last match on the patch, but it was so useful in the end to control space, and by the end, you saw the damage from Pilot. He was a one-man wrecking crew.
He certainly was. He had just so much room to work with. Swain and Leona in the front line is like, you're just never getting on me. Even though Ian, you know, he had to get out of there for the majority of that fight, he still did supportive damage, and it was all the Pilot show. Head in hands here and question marks above every single person on the side of KSV.
You would not have prepared for this Swain pick, and KSV, understandably, just were not expecting it. They were not respecting it. By the end, their comp was outscaled, and when they were strongest, they couldn't find advantages because they botched some of their engages. I asked for the Galio comp. Maybe I shouldn't have. The execution on some of these plays, I love how this plays out. So you watch it at the start, and you think, okay, someone dies, it's over. But Leona's dead. The re-engage when the ult is gone is so good by the side of MVP. And then how much is there on Pilot? Does he ever lose his overheal shield? The answer is no. No threat on him. Able to flash in aggressively. Opts into the Blade Caller because he knows he'll be fine. CoreJJ lives by the hair on his chinny chin chin at the start, but he goes down anyway, and MVP looking for that upset, Valdez.
What a game. Not what we were expecting here between these two teams, but they make it work. Beyond having a good game on the Skarner, too. Want to shout out him as well. But either way, guys, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be back with an exciting game 2.